Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Hari Shri Radha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Hari Yashodanandana Yamuna Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Brajagana Yashodanandana Brajagana Yamuna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Gaura Pimanandi. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Radhagacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Chirabhai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandiviti Founder Sharia's Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namasarya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jainitai Gaura Pimanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutirivi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tirubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the Supreme Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayashabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naisiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama-shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantara, as the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Mukham karoti vacharam pangum langayate girim Yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Varam Dinataranam Yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Varam Dinataranam Hare Krishna. Someone will need to translate, isn't it? So you work it out. Vijay Kane Bush Ben. Oh yeah. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 13, entitled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. And we begin with text 35, the continuing exchange between Prahlad Maharaj and the saintly Brahmana, somewhere in South India, near the Godavari, Kaveri, somehow Kaveri, in the Saya area, Sayadri, maybe close to SSKBK.
हम लोग अभी भागवत में सातवां स्कंद 13वां अध्याय 35 श्लोक से पढ़ेंगे और इसमें महाराज और ब्राह्मण इन दोनों के बीच में जो वार्तालाप है.
So text 35, Madhukara Maha Salpao Loke Asmin No Guru Tamao Vairagyam Paritosham Cha Prapta Yach Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpao Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam Paritosham Cha Kapta Yas Chikshaya Vayam Madhukara Mahasarpao Lokesmin no Guruttamao Vairagyam paritosham cha Tapta yas chikshaya vayam Madhukara mahasarpa Lokesmin no guru tamo Vairagyam paritosham cha Prapta yas chikshaya vayam Madhukara mahasarpa Lokesmin no guruttamo Vairagyam paritosham cha Prapta yas chikshaya vayam Madhukara mahasarpa Lokesmin no guruttamo Vairagyam purushottam cha Prapta sat shikshaya vayam Madhukara. These that go from flower to flower to collect honey. You have to simultaneously translate for them, no? Acha. And they should be told to repeat also the Sanskrit and the English. Bolo, bolo, bole. No. We're not going to stop the class. You simultaneously translate. This is not going to be. You have to get accustomed to that. Mahasarpa, the big snake. So Bible. The python, which does not move from one place to another. Loke, in the world. Asmin, this. Naha, our. Guru, spiritual masters. Uttamao, first class. Vairagyam, renunciation. Paritosham, paritosham cha, and satisfaction. Praptaha, obtained. Yet shikshaya, by whose instruction? Vayam, we. Translation with no purport by His Divine Grace of the Prabhupada. A few of these verses, we're reading actually from 35 to 40. A few of them don't have purports, so that's why we have grouped them together. The bee and the python. First I will read, then only after I read, you will repeat. First I will read, and you simultaneously translate them. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. Kindly repeat after me now. The bee and the python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. So this is the beginning of this Brahmana's sharing his realization and understanding. Uh, he's taking example from nature. Huh? Yes, yes. We're not going to stop the class. It's simultaneous translation. You have to learn how to do it. And he begins, therefore, with these two examples of the bee and the python. We know that bees. What do bees do? Bees, they from one flower to another flower, they collect little, 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 like that. And the python, or the big snake, it stays at one place. So Prabhupada doesn't give any purport to that. Yes, actually, in our tradition, not only Vaishnava tradition, in spiritual tradition, in Vedic culture, this collecting little, little is called madhukari. It is called madhukari because madhu, like the bees. Yeah, right. So in Vrindavan, they have a very nice system. You know the system they have in Vrindavan? People who live in Govardhan probably should know this. The system of madhukari, because Babaji, every morning they go around. And the Brajavasis, they know that some sadhu at some point will come to my door. Because Babajis, they don't work. They simply completely concentrate on their spiritual life. And, sadhus are like children. They're meant to be maintained by society, especially by householders. So every day they prepare chapatis. So I had mentioned this story before. When I was in Vrindavan, one Babaji was, I met one Babaji at the, I was getting some, what is it? Some lemon juice in the front of the Krishna Balaram temple. Nimbu Pani. Nimbu Pani. They have a nice system. In the winter time, they have hot Nimbu Pani, and in the summertime, they have cold Nimbu Pani. Both are very refreshing. So he was telling me that actually all the Brajabasis, they have a standard system of preparing chapatis, knowing that the sadhus will come. So the first chapati that they prepare, they put it aside. They don't offer that one to Krishna. They put it aside for the cow. Because cow, not only sadhus will come, but cows will also come. And then they prepare a second chapati. That second chapati also doesn't go to Krishna, but goes to the sadhus. And then the third chapati, Krishna gets. Krishna has to be patient and wait for that third chapati to come off. This is the practice, standard practice in Vrindavan. Because the Brajavasis, they know that Krishna becomes more pleased when we look after those who are beloved to him. Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana. Go Brahmana are very dear to Krishna. Cows and Brahmanas. So we'll go to text 36. Viraga sarvakambe kamebhya shikshito me madhu vratat krichraptam madhuvad vitam hat vapyanyu haret patim. Translation: from the bumblebee I have learned to be unattached to accumulating money. For although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owner and take it away. Purport. The honey gathered in the comb, called honeycomb, is taken away by force. Therefore, one who accumulates money should realize that he may be harassed by the government or by thieves, and even killed by enemies. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is said that instead of protecting the money of the citizens, the government itself will take away the money with the force of law. The learned Brahmana had therefore decided that he should not accumulate any money. One should own as much as he immediately needs. There is no need to keep a big balance at hand along with the fear that it may be plundered by the government or by thieves. So Prabhupada was always quite clear and quite strong on this point. The dangers of Prabhupada didn't want devotees to keep money in the bank. As a matter of fact, he would tell the story of his Guru Maharaj. And his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would have his disciples, whatever they collected, you spend it the same day, so that tomorrow you don't have any money. Nice system. You invest your money immediately, and then, yeah.
It's culture of Bengal.
Culture of Bengal, eh? They know, eh?
They spend their money on the day itself.
On that day itself, yes. But it should be well spent. It should be not just thrown away, whatever. So money should not be. We should not earn more than we need, and we should not simply have money idly sitting in the bank. And money should be wisely invested also. As we discussed, Prabhupada also reminded, money should be invested in transcendental literatures and books. Money should be invested in land, especially. Yeah. And especially because the monetary system of modern day society is a very highly speculative system. It is not based on actual wealth. Therefore, it is very risky. People have lost huge amounts of money. I think it happens all the time. All of a sudden, your bank has no more money. You've invested for so many years. So, yes, Srila Prabhupada warned us many times how the modern day monetary system is very dangerous, very unreliable, and therefore we should be very cautious about money. Yeah. So we continue text 37. No, we didn't read the purport yet, have we?
We did purport.
We read the purport.
Yes.
Yeah.
37.
So now 37. Aniha paritushtatma.
Ani,
No, it's okay, I'll just read. Yadricho panatad aham na
no,
no. No,
no chet chay.
that is,
No chet chay.
yeah. I'm just looking at the word for word.
Chet
Atma.
chay.
Okay. It's chet, chet. No chet chaye baba babahani mahir eva sattvatvan. So that translation purport by Srila Prabhupada. I do not endeavor to get anything, but am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and unagitated like a python and lie down in this way for many days. So a purport by Srila Prabhupada, continuing on the example of uh, these two examples of the bumblebee and the python. One should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb, but then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebee not to keep more money than one needs. Yes. Similarly, one should learn from the python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its own way. Thus, the learned Brahmana gave instruction gained from two creatures, namely the bumblebee and the python. Yes. Text number 38. Kvachit alpam kvachit bhuri bhunje bhunjinnam swadhas vaduva kvachit bhuri gunopetam guna hinam uta kvachit. Oh, it's a long, it's two verses. It mentions only 38, but it's two verses. Sradayo paritam kvapi kadachin mana varjitam bunje bunkt vata kasminschid diva naktam yadrichaya. Translation: sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable, sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect, and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day, and sometimes at night. Thus I eat what is easily available.
This is for renounced people, no? Not for those.
This is for renounced people, not for everyone. Is it?
Ah,
Your question
ah.
or comment? Well, everyone is meant to be renounced.
But when they took the order of the renounced life, then only this.
Uh, so the question is whether this is meant only for those who are in the renounced order of life. The instructions being given here, of course, what is being described is very difficult to follow. We need to take the spirit of that and learn to be satisfied, as Prabhupada often would tell us, with the minimum and not understand that things will come of their own accord. We should not be over endeavoring. We should not be over accumulating. It's not that we should uh, follow exactly here as is being mentioned that for days and days he will not eat. This is uh, there are individuals like Madhavendra Puri was following this kind of vrata. He would not even perform madhukari. He would simply uh, accept whatever was arranged by nature. But we cannot imitate that. But
But for Varnas also, like Kshatriyas, they cannot do madhukari. So
yes, so but the same spirit is there that one should not accumulate more than necessary. Uh, and these are, we could say, extreme examples that are given and that can be practiced by uh, particular individuals, those in the renounced order of life. Just like we see the Goswamis of Vrindavan also. Uh, so you have to keep in mind that you're supposed to translate at the same time, which is difficult to do if you ask too many questions.
that's our race.
um, so this means that actually when Vedic culture, as we know, is giving emphasis and importance, primary importance to um, developing one's spiritual life, that means that we must learn to not become overly disturbed uh, on the material level or the material platform. If our goal is actually to advance spiritually, then we will minimize our necessities of life. Sometimes some good things will happen, so-called good things will happen, sometimes bad things will happen. Sometimes somebody will get a job that gives more money, sometimes he will get a job that gives less money. Ordinary people, karmis, they're constantly making plans to get, for example, a job that will give more money, regardless of where that job may be, regardless of so many other factors. Um, whereas a devotee will take into consideration how this will be affecting my spiritual life. Uh, in other words, a devotee, someone who uh, is serious about practicing spiritual life, will be satisfied with earning less money if this will allow him to nicely practice his Krishna consciousness. Uh, knowing that whatever money I'm meant to get in this lifetime, it'll come anyways, you know. And just yesterday, we were reading this purport where Prabhupada is telling that in the Vedic culture, even householders, they should be satisfied with a lower income. Uh, this is the specific sentence. Just let me read this 1 second. Because Vedic civilization is concerned, or is concerned mainly about self-realization. Therefore, to achieve self-realization, one is recommended to have a small income to maintain body and soul together. Yes.
So I have a question. So someone may say, so we are earning, I want to earn more money for service, but he has tendency of earning more money.
Some people can make more money. Money itself is not bad, as long as this money, number one, will be utilized in Krishna service, and number two, it will not compromise our practice of Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Just like many of the occupations today for people in India are occupations that are not normal and natural. People working at night. People who are in the in the corporate life, yeah, because they are having to cater or serve the needs of people in America who are having a different time schedule than we do. When we sleep, they are awake, and when we are awake, they sleep. So when they sleep, that means that those who are working for those companies here in India have to be awake at nighttime. So a lot of that is taking place, and even some of our devotees are caught up in that at times, which is not at all desirable, because that is, even from a purely a material point of view, it is disrupting our natural way of living. We're meant at nighttime. We're meant to sleep, not stay up all night. Yeah.
So if we do any such a corporate job, so which is not given in our prescribed duties in Dharma Shastra.
Correct.
So then such a earning, that means which is not prescribed by the Shastra, and we do such a job and such a job, and then we earn money. And is it okay? That means, is there any consequences?
Is it okay to work in a corporate job?
Yeah, which is not prescribed by the our scriptures, because it is technological. It is an emotional technology which is destroying in nature.
It is not. It is not ideal, and it is. It is not what is prescribed actually in the Shastra, because of so many reasons. It is, the more we are deviating from what is more natural and more clearly defined and prescribed in the Shastra, then we are more in line with Dharma. So the whole modern society is based on unnatural occupations, not goes against the actual prescribed occupations that are mentioned in the Shastra. The whole livelihood of the majority of people is like that. So one cannot. We are in general, the whole of society is caught up into this kind of system. So it's not that we should not work in that system, but we should know that it is not an ideal system, and we should endeavor to to bring society closer to what is meant to be the norm. Yeah. Just like if somebody is working in a factory, that is not ideal, but some most people don't have any choice, including we have devotees who are working in factories. It is not ideal. But we should know that we should know it is not ideal, and we should make some effort to to find an alternative, isn't it? We should not simply be satisfied that, well, this is the way it is, and I can't really do anything about it. So it is both individually and collectively we should understand uh, that this is not ideal kind of situation, and we should endeavor uh, to change that. Yeah.
So one more question on top of this.
Yeah.
So, like, if bhakti is unconditional, it is not dependent on the external conditions. So asuras also they became devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, and so many, that means they are externally they are might be doing the, different kinds of the unprescribed activities according to the Shastra, but they are able to do devotion and they become perfect. So like that also we whatever situation is there, external situation, let it be. So and we'll be doing the devotion and we'll be get perfection. We'll be getting perfection.
Um, so your comment or question is that even though we are in a situation which may not be ideal, if we practice devotional service, then we can still make advancement, and we should not be overly concerned about this unnatural kind of situation.
Yes.
The point is that we should know what is ideal, what is more natural, and of course, in any, your point was that devotional service is beyond any material consideration, which is true. At the same time, it is generally uh, easier to practice one's devotional service when one is in a atmosphere that is more conducive for practicing spiritual life, isn't it? For example, if someone, it's just like we have devotees that are going out working on ships, right? Srinath Prabhu has a whole fleet of students that who are cultivated, who graduate, and who get a job working on the ship, and they travel and work on the ship for months without any devotee association. But that's the kind of situation. It's not ideal. It's extremely difficult also to maintain proper standard, to maintain sadhana, even especially most difficult to take prasadam, because most of these places they don't serve prasadam. They don't make prasadam. They don't make vegetarian food, or with great difficulty. So these are not ideal. It's part of the bad situation in which we find ourselves, and one should therefore be aware of the many dangers that are there, and if at all possible, if one can avoid such kind of activities, that is better. But if one is not having any other choice, or then he should take the necessary precaution to protect oneself in that kind of unnatural, dangerous environment, actually. Yeah.
So some devotees they say that my Guru Maharaj told me to work in corporate and assist the temple. So that's my devotion is also pure devotion only, because so anyway he is saying to work in the corporate. So
my
what is
Guru,
the need of this changing, like that, changing the lifestyle and becoming the more natural and as prescribed by the Shastras. So why do we have to act this kind of lifestyle? And
so you're giving the example of some particular disciple who has received instruction from his Guru Maharaj that you continue to work in the corporate, and you give some percentage of your income for spreading Krishna consciousness, and you follow the basic principles of Krishna consciousness, and this way continue to advance and don't bother too much about Varnasrama.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So every situation will be instructions are given, are meant to be given as per Kala Deshapatra, time, place, and circumstance. So therefore, what an individual spiritual master may instruct a particular disciple, that may be okay for that particular disciple. That does not negate the fact that looking at the overall picture, it is more ideal as a principle to work in, or to have a situation where one works in a more natural environment. And therefore, because it is not possible to just overnight change the kind of demoniac civilization in which we're living in, and therefore we have to, as Prabhupada would say, make the best use of a bad bargain. He would say that in regards to the body, of course, but that's also applicable in terms of we have a bad bargain.
Yes.
In terms of the kind of modern society in which we are living. And so we make the best use of it, at the same time knowing that we should strive and endeavor to bring about the necessary changes so that others in the future won't be born or won't be stuck in this kind of bad bargain situation. In other words, just like we are giving those who are householders, are giving an opportunity to living entities to be born in a devotee family, which is much more ideal, much more beneficial, much more giving opportunities for such individual to take to Krishna consciousness, as opposed to someone who is not born in a devotee family. So even though one spiritual master may give a particular instruction, that does not deny the fact that as a society, we should be endeavoring to actually bring about the changes, and as Prabhupada in a very we could say famous instruction instructed that we as a society, one of the purposes of the Krishna consciousness movement is to bring a complete overhaul within society and to revert to the system of Varnasrama. So one may say, well, what to do meantime? So we have to learn to balance these two things, and that's largely on a individual basis. That it can be done, but we need to understand that the general intent or purport of the Lord's mission. The Lord's mission is to reestablish dharma. Dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
We have somebody explained that somebody has more money. Let's clear it first.
Huh?
Somebody has more money. These are the consequences.
Here it is explained that if somebody has more money, then there are dangers. Somebody may, yeah. Either the government, yes, yes, yes. So one of the important instructions being given here, in the context of money, is whether it's for a devotee or a non-devotee, is that if we have more money, then either, as Prabhupada explained, government will take a good chunk of that money, Or thieves, if they come to know that you're wealthy and have lots of money, then they may come and steal. So the instruction is not to accumulate more money than necessary. Yeah, that's being given. Mm. So we have read what is it? 30?
38. Verse 38 we read. Which is not having purpose. You can go from it.
Okay, 38 did not have a purport, correct. And 39 also doesn't have a purport, so we can read 39. Kshomam dukulam ajinam chiram valkalam evacha vasenyad api sampraptam dista bhuk tusta dhir aham. To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and I'm fully satisfied and unagitated. And text number, our last text for this morning, text number 40. Kvachit chaye daropaste trina parnashma bhashmasu kvachit prasada paryanke vashipao va paretschaya. Translation and purport. Sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes by the will of others in a palace on a first-class bed with pillows. Purport. That the learned Brahmana's description indicates different types of births, for one lies down according to one's body. Sometimes one takes birth as an animal and sometimes as a king. When he takes birth as an animal, he must lie down on the ground. And when he takes birth as a king or a very rich man, he's allowed to lie in first-class rooms in huge palaces decorated with beds and other furniture. Such facilities are not available, however, at the sweet will of the living entity. Rather, they are available by the supreme will, Paritjaya, or by the arrangement of Maya. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 1861, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Riddeshir Junatistati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantra Rudhani Mayaya. Translation. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. End of the quotation. And the last line of the purport, last two lines. The living entity, according to his material desires, receives different types of bodies, which are nothing but machines offered by material nature, according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the will of the Supreme, one must take different bodies with different means for lying down. Yes. So someone who is practicing spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, knows that whatever is happening in this life is very much directly connected with karma, with my previous activities, and therefore there are certain things, so many things we cannot change. And therefore, a devotee, this is the example being given here by this Brahmana, that Prabhupada is comparing his explanation to different births. We will get sometimes a good, so-called good birth in a human body as opposed to animal body. But even within human birth, we may be born rich family or poor family. We may have a healthy body or a diseased body. The point being that if one is in proper knowledge, he will not be overly disturbed by whatever material condition one finds oneself. That is, whatever is happening to us is caused or arranged by, we call destiny or providence. Means we will not be overly endeavoring to change our material condition of life, which is very different than the ordinary, we can say, karmis. Materialistic people are especially endeavoring and working very hard to improve their material condition of life. The devotee is much less concerned about his material condition of life.
The devotee should endeavor for serving the Lord.
The primary purpose and objective for devotee is to engage in serving the Lord and serving the Lord's mission. And sometimes good things will, so-called good things will happen, sometimes bad things. A devotee is less concerned or in anxiety about whatever may happen, because that is destiny, isn't it? So the primary concern of a devotee is how I can maintain my Krishna consciousness, how I can progress in Krishna consciousness, and I must learn to tolerate different situations which may be disturbing in different ways. Yeah. So, which means that in modern day society, as we know, those who are karmis or materialistic persons, all of their endeavors, all of their activities are on the bodily platform to increase material comfort and reduce or decrease whatever material disturbances may be there. But a devotee thinks differently. The devotee is less preoccupied with material things. Doesn't mean he becomes careless, but that he understands that situations will be different from one person to another, from one lifetime to another lifetime, etc. And let's see, yeah. We'll just continue tomorrow with some of the other last few verses are there actually in this chapter. So we can understand by these instructions given by this saintly Brahmana, obviously, that he's not at all on the bodily platform. He's completely detached, and he's giving nice examples of how we should lead our lives in such a way that we remain primarily focus on what is the most important thing in life, which is our spiritual, our advancement in spiritual life. So, any additional thoughts on this?
In a society, if 10 people are there and the 9 are over endeavoring and they are very much, uh, that means, like if you take one bread is there and 5 members are, and 4 are attacking on that and trying to grab, and one person is okay, so let everyone eat and I should not endeavor and I should not uh, uh, go for that, be peaceful. Like that, he is following this. But by that, what will happen? After 1 day, 2 days, okay. But third day, so you'll be feeling hungry, and you also will become like that because of the situation of the others, neighbors.
This is called fatalistic way of thinking. That even though the majority, which is our very difficult situation actually for Vaishnavas, Prabhupada explains that whenever there is an increase in adharma, this becomes very difficult for devotees, which is actually the situation. But that does not mean that because, which is the example you're giving, even though the majority of people in the world today are not devotees, it doesn't mean that we also become non-devotees because the majority are non-devotees. Rather, even if there's only one person in the world who is a saintly person, who is a devotee, if he is properly practicing, then the potency of one devotee can actually change the entire world, because spiritual potency is much more powerful than material energy, isn't it? So therefore, how we are influenced by the surrounding and by the people with whom we are associating depends largely on our commitment to Krishna consciousness, on our level of Krishna consciousness. And therefore, we should understand that in the context in which we are living today, that if we are not sufficiently strong in Krishna consciousness, then we will allow ourselves to be allured by what is taking place all around us. And we will not become as determined as we should be to actually spread the mission, or even to understand the mission. If one is not really fixed in his practice of devotional service, which includes also very much one of the primary activities for any devotee or disciple is to understand the mission of his spiritual master, the mission of the acharyas, especially the mission of our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and one's success in life as a devotee or as a disciple is to imbibe that mission, to follow that mission, to execute that mission, isn't it?
Just so they need to have the separate society. So
Prabhupada was making that very point. We were telling just yesterday that the vast majority of people will continue in their materialistic ways because of their being heavily conditioned in that way. And therefore, Prabhupada advised, we make our own society, we make our own communities, and those who are fortunate will be attracted. And, when we know, for example, which is obvious, simply by simple observation, and which is obvious also by knowing a little bit the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Modern day society is based on adharma, right or wrong?
Yes.
It's obvious. Modern day society, modern day civilization is based on adharma. So adharma is unsustainable. Adharma cannot last. Adharma at some point has to collapse. So therefore, uh, again, adharma is not only something material, spiritual. Adharma also includes the whole material dimension of life. So because we're not following dharmic principles in terms of our prescribed duties, in terms of how we're doing agriculture, in terms of practically everything, therefore we are ruining, uh, the whole world has become completely chaotic due to following principles that are against the principles of dharma. So that means, as Prabhupada has told us and reminded us again and again and again, that this type of civilization will soon collapse. So if you know that if you're living in a house and every day you're seeing cracks in the house, and then one day the roof starts to come down a little bit, at some point you're going to tell yourself, maybe I should get out of this house before the roof falls on your head. Or if you're going in the car and it starts to make noise, or you can't, the wheel, it goes off a little bit, or the wheel comes off, you have to stop your car, right? And you have to do something. So modern day civilization has been built in such a way that it is doomed to collapse. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted that we not only talk about what is meant to be the alternative, which is a more simplified lifestyle, in keeping with the prescribed work and duties and that are mentioned in the Shastra, but he wanted us to actually create that, live that. In other words, speaking the philosophy is one thing, and living the philosophy is another. And both are needed, isn't it? But when we only do one, then we are putting ourselves in a very dangerous position. Yeah. So yes, we should be, Prabhupada very clearly indicated that we should be creating that alternative society. And that alternative society cannot simply be created in our temples, in our city temples. That alternative society has to take us out of our city temples. Not that we close the city temples. They have a reason, they have a purpose, but simultaneously, if we understand properly the mission, the philosophy, then we will create communities where actual Vedic culture, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of occupation, will be possible for our own devotees, and where we will reconnect with Krishna by reconnecting with his nature, by reconnecting with the land, reconnecting with the cows, all of these things. Otherwise, this is like the very precarious situation in which modern society finds itself. It is disconnected with the land, disconnected with the cows, and therefore there's a need to act on that. Yeah. Okay, we need to close for now. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki Gaur Premanandi.